her being 23 or whatever she is, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantada is the only global solution.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
Rachel Zegler just faced the most devastating Hollywood moment ever. Snow White was supposed to be Rachel Zegler's biggest role yet, but now it looks like everything is falling apart. So, what went wrong with Snow White? How does this major setback affect Rachel Zegler's career? And what does this mean for Disney's future? Join us as we uncover the shocking details that changes everything. Rachel Zegler's comments about the original 1937 Snow White film created a spark that would quickly turn into a wildfire. In several interviews, Zegler made it clear that she didn't view the original as a positive portrayal of women. She criticized Snow White for being passive, waiting for a prince to save her, arguing that this was an outdated representation of female characters. Zegler's take wasn't just a personal opinion. It was part of her defense of Disney's decision to reimagine the character as someone who could stand up for herself. Many fans of the original Snow White felt that Zegler was dismissing the very qualities that made the character beloved for generations.
Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again because this woman is a pig and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces and people still line up to see her.
Oh my God.
And I can only hope.
What does that mean?
That despite my flaws and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line.
They argued that Snow White's innocence and kindness were her strengths, and that her vulnerability was not something that needed to be fixed. The criticism wasn't just about her portrayal of Snow White, but also about what it represented, an attempt to rewrite history in a way that would appeal to modern sensibilities, regardless of how it might alienate longtime fans. Zegler's comments sparked heated debates on social media, where both sides of the argument clashed. On one hand, some people supported Zegler, arguing that it was time for more complex female characters, and that Snow White should reflect the values of modern-day women. On the other hand, many felt that Zegler's version of Snow White was a betrayal of the character's history, and that the changes were being made for the sake of political correctness.
You guys, Disney's new live-action remake of Snow White debuted this weekend, and it's an even bigger dud than anticipated.
Rather than storytelling. The backlash against Zegler didn't stop there. Her comments about the original film quickly gained traction, with critics accusing her of disrespecting a Disney classic. Some even went as far as to say that she didn't fully understand the significance of the original Snow White, which had been a groundbreaking film for its time.
She's now bragging about the success of Snow White, which is a movie that's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars, and mainly because of her, and because nobody wanted to support her.
After its release, Snow White quickly became a box office disappointment. Despite a significant marketing campaign, a big budget, and Disney's brand power, the film failed to generate the kind of box office numbers that Disney had hoped for. The film didn't just underperform, it was pulled from theaters in a matter of weeks, an unusual move for a Disney production.
Yeah, we had more dwarfs than we did viewers in most of these theaters. And as you know, there were no dwarfs other than some CGI weird generated version of them.
So what happened? Was it just bad timing? Or was there something deeper at play? It's likely that the controversy surrounding the film's changes played a major role in its box office failure. Fans of the original Snow White were not shy about voicing their displeasure, and many of them simply didn't show up to support the remake.
So just how bad? The movie debuted in the United States at #1 with $43 million. Decent, but not a blockbuster. And far below projections. Internationally, a similar story. Overseas, Snow White took in $44.3 million in its opening weekend, bringing the total to just $87.3 million, with a budget of around $209 million. That means Snow White is destined to be one of the biggest bombs in Disney history. It will not recoup.
For every one of the 18 hours I am in the Snow White dress, I expect to get paid. If it's 18 hours, I want 18 hours of pay. I'm sure she got underpaid as a Disney lead actress. People have real problems and no one gives a shit if she got paid for 17 instead of 18 on her multi-million-dollar salary, which is not calculated by the hour.
But these guys at Disney, they're not that bright, they're not that smart, and we see that because they can't come up with any new IP. Why not write some new movies? You guys sit around, you have billions of dollars. They keep going back and rewriting the classics.
Studio, if you're a director, if you're a casting director, you've got to think twice or three times before hiring her. Listen, she's talented, she's attractive, she's got skill, but there are a lot of actresses in Hollywood who bring all that to the table and are not going to absolutely sabotage your work.
This is someone who is as entitled as, I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it, you didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White. Right. You should shut up and do the job.
But this truly is the worst casting, maybe in the history of the film industry. Has there been a film with worse casting than this? And I don't just mean the Snow White actress. Obviously, she's terrible, but both of them. Neither of them make any sense for their roles. We've already covered how Rachel Zegler is a terrible choice for Snow White. Nothing about her says Snow White, and that's even leaving aside the fact that she openly detests the story, as she's said many times during this disastrous PR campaign. But Gal Gadot, who plays the Queen, the first problem is that she's the evil queen. The evil queen is supposed to be envious of Snow White's beauty, and that is just not believable. It is just not, even in a movie with magical mirrors and dwarves and all that, in a fairy tale, that strains my ability to suspend disbelief. I cannot buy that Gal Gadot is angry that she's not as beautiful as Rachel Zegler. I cannot buy that.
Don't alienate half of the country when you're putting out a product meant to appeal to all. It's the Michael Jordan Republicans buy sneakers too.
The backlash against Zegler's comments didn't help. The actress became the face of the film's modernized approach, and her controversial remarks were seen by many as a direct challenge to the traditional values that had made Disney films so successful. The backlash against the film was so strong that it led to a significant drop in audience interest, both from people who disagreed with the film's changes and those who simply felt that Disney had lost its magic. The failure of Snow White also raised questions about Disney's approach to filmmaking in the current cultural climate. Were they out of touch with what audiences wanted? Had they gone too far in trying to please certain social groups? The film's swift pull from theaters seemed to suggest that Disney may have underestimated how much audiences still valued tradition, even when it came to something as seemingly simple as a fairy tale. Zegler took to social media to respond to the backlash, addressing the many negative comments directed her way. Instead of shying away from the controversy, she engaged directly with her critics, defending both her portrayal of Snow White and the broader shift in Hollywood toward more diverse and empowered female characters. She made it clear that she wasn't trying to disrespect the original Snow White, she was simply updating the character for a new generation. However, not everyone bought into Zegler's defense. Many fans felt that her statements came off as arrogant and disturbing, especially given the context of the film's box office failure. The backlash was so intense that it became personal, with some critics attacking Zegler's abilities as an actress, or accusing her of being out of touch with the very audience she was trying to represent. Nevertheless, Zegler remained steadfast in her position, even if it meant enduring more criticism. The failure of Snow White has left Hollywood in a bit of a crossroads. The film's removal from theaters has raised a significant question.
Controversy has swirled around Gal Gadot's new movie, also starring Rachel Zegler as Snow White. A lot of people don't like her. A lot of people don't like her either. She's got a big mouth. She talked trash about the original movie.
Her heroine cannot be in love or be saved by a man, the prince, that she's more focused on becoming the leader she was meant to be, as if women in modern day America must make that choice.
Now for Disney, as you probably remember, all of this publicity, the Zegler interviews, the Daily Mail leak, caused a lot of unexpected, for them anyway, pre-production problems. People weren't supposed to see and understand just how unwatchable the new Snow White was going to be. It was supposed to be, kind of a surprise, but now there was no hiding it.
It's just a total nightmare for the studios. So now she's trying to sell like, oh, I love Snow White. I love everything about the whole story. Here she is more recently trying to change the messaging. This is actually Wednesday.
Her West Side Story debut was not a hit, and that was a Spielberg movie, so that was kind of surprised. But if you're
agree that she's not as beautiful as Rachel Zegler, I cannot buy that.
This is truly like She has to go. I'm sorry, Disney. She has to go.
Given all the behind-the-scenes mayhem, I expected a Frankenstein's monster where scenes to be stitched together. I think a lot of these live-action updates are really hard to watch. They've really done so much stepping on rakes over the last few months with this project where the box office is just not going to recover.
So she just encapsulates everything that most of us cannot stand about modern day feminism and the left in general and Hollywood. A leader as a female and fall in love and be rescued by a prince, like that's incongruous bullshit. That's only the left's version of what it means to be a strong woman or female empowerment.
There are empty theaters all around the country. We are now at a 1 out of 10 on IMDb for the new Snow White.
Now you have Rachel Zegler saying, oh, that 1937 movie, that's just, oh, it's tacky, it's weird, we're going to change all.
Behind the scenes, you guys know as well as I do that those executives like Spielberg are looking at that saying, Rachel Zegler can F right off.
And so for them, they're like, you're not going to cast us?
So much for being here. And to see this is really emotional for me, so I'm going to try to not do that. I love her,
she's
and
emotional
her
now.
superpower is her heart. It's nothing supernatural. It's something that all of us have.
But you're going to hire little people to play the dwarfs? That just seems like a step backwards. And then, of course, Disney instantly buckled and said, okay, we're going to add magical creatures. And then the picture of the magical creatures leaked online, and everyone just had an absolute blast laughing at it. So the magical creatures are here in the movie. The CGI dwarfs are here in the movie. It works to a degree, but it's certainly going to be a financial hit for Disney, that's for sure.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different, and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
I remember back in 2023 when this was going on and all the little people making videos saying, well, wait, there's so few roles for us in Hollywood. We're being passed over for this. You could have cast 7
screw you,
little
Peter
people.
Dinklage.
Exactly. They're like, Peter Dinklage, you're rich. We're not. We're trying to be extras, or, you know, we're in Johnny Knoxville's Jackass if we're lucky.
While some argue that Disney's efforts to modernize classic films for a new generation are just the beginning of a necessary cultural shift, others believe that audiences are pushing back against the constant re-engineering of their favorite stories. Disney and other major studios are left to ponder whether they should continue down the path of progressive reimaginings, or whether it's time to return to the tried-and-true storytelling methods that have made them successful for decades. As audiences become more vocal about their preferences, Hollywood faces a dilemma: balance the demands for inclusion and diversity with the need to maintain beloved traditions. It's clear that the failure of Snow White has become a cautionary tale for filmmakers who believe they can push the envelope without considering their audience's deep attachment to the originals. Do you agree that Disney's remakes are too far from what the audience really want? Is this the end of Rachel Zegler's career, or is there more to the Snow White controversy? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for further updates.